The Driveway Conspiracy, a battle against neighborhood tyranny. It was a crisp October morning in 2025 when I glanced out my kitchen window and saw a woman pacing my driveway, tape measure in hand, like she was plotting a bank heist. That was Margaret Thompson, our HOA president and the self-appointed sheriff of Pinewood Meadows. She declared my driveway was 22 inches too wide, claiming it was tanking everyone's property values. I thought that was the most absurd thing I'd ever heard, but trust me, it got wilder and dumber from there. Fines, threats, and surprise inspections hit me like I'd built a nightclub instead of parked my sedan. All because one woman needed a hobby or, frankly, a therapist. If you've ever tangled with a power-hungry HOA, this story's for you. Buckle up for a tale of suburban drama, deceit, and a fight that turned our quiet neighborhood upside down. Pinewood Meadows is a 47-house subdivision in suburban Ohio, built in 1994. It's the kind of place where folks pay $200 a month in HOA fees for someone to nitpick their mailbox color. I'm Robert Davis, a 52-year-old software engineer who bought my first home here 10 months ago, chasing the American dream. I thought I'd landed in a well-kept community. What I didn't know was that Margaret, HOA president for 4 years, had turned rule enforcement into a twisted art form. She was a suburban detective with a clipboard, sniffing out violations where none existed. That Monday, I heard voices outside. Peering through my blinds, I saw Margaret with her measuring tape, notebook, and phone, live streaming to her community page for an audience of maybe 3. "Good morning, neighbors," she chirped. "We're documenting a violation threatening our property values." I threw on a sweater, grabbed my coffee mug, and stepped outside in my slippers to face the chaos. The air was chilly, my breath visible as I approached her. "Your driveway's 22 inches over the limit," she announced, like she was diagnosing cancer. "You can narrow it or pay a $15,000 compliance fee." The number hit me like a punch. $15,000? For what? My driveway matched every other one on the street. "If you don't comply in 30 days, she added, smirking, "it's $250 daily fines." Then came the red flag. "If this gets too costly," she said, eyes gleaming, "I know cash buyers who love corner lots like yours." Her tone was too eager, too practiced. As a coder, I spot bugs in systems, and this felt like a script with bad logic. "Can I see the rule?" I asked calmly. She deflected, promising to email it code for I don't have it. Her measurements were sloppy, too. She got 3 different numbers from the same spot, all conveniently proving her claim. As she packed up, smug as if she'd cracked a case, I decided to treat this like a coding bug. Step 1. Dig into the source code every HOA rule, regulation, and document. Margaret thought she'd cornered me, but she'd just started a debugging session, and I'd turn against her. 3 days later, a certified letter arrived, written like a mob threat. It cited Section 4.2.7 of the HOA Covenant, demanding immediate legal action if I didn't comply. The problem was, my HOA rules only went to 4.2.6. Either my copy was outdated, or someone was inventing rules. I pulled every document from when I bought the house, comparing the 2019 covenant to the 1994 original. The original allowed my driveway. So, either the rules changed after my house was built, or Margaret was retroactively criminalizing a legal structure. I called my old friend Laura, a city planner, and asked if HOAs could make existing buildings illegal. "No way," she said. "That's grandfathering basic property law." She sent me neighborhood surveys from 1994 onward, arming me with data. Then I met Frank Wilson, my neighbor and a retired fire chief. "You dealing with Margaret's driveway nonsense?" he asked, face grim. When I nodded, he revealed she'd targeted the Lopez family in 2022 and the Carter family in 2023 with similar scams. Both faced fake violations: fence height for the Lopezes, mailbox color for the Carters, followed by fines and stress until they nearly sold. Margaret always mentioned investors ready to buy. I dug into her community page, spotting a pattern. She targeted specific homes, her posts backed by the same 4 accounts, like a paid cheer squad. Public records showed Margaret's financial mess: divorce, late payments, and high debt. Her real estate license was active, but she had few sales. The pieces clicked. She was forcing sales for commissions, likely with investor kickbacks. Laura's surveys dropped a bombshell. The 1994 maps showed my driveway was legal, and the public road into Pinewood might be private. My lot included 15 feet of what everyone assumed was city road, with no easement or agreement in city records. If true, I could control neighborhood access. Margaret's next move was a newsletter headline, "Driveway Crisis," with photos of my house and warnings about property values. She called an urgent community meeting, painting me as a rebel. 35 neighbors packed the community center, where her PowerPoint framed me as a threat to stability. "Do we want a neighborhood where anything goes?" she asked, as if my driveway would spark anarchy. I took the floor, presenting my timeline. My driveway was legal in 1994, protected by grandfathering, and Margaret's rule changes were questionable. "When did you notify residents about these changes?" I asked. She fumbled, contradicting herself, and the room sensed her weakness. Neighbors exchanged looks. Doubt crept in. Margaret escalated, hiring a biased surveyor who admitted, "The lady told me what to find." She even called my boss, claiming I was a disruptive employee. My manager laughed it off, but it showed her desperation. I recorded everything legal in Ohio, including the surveyor's confession and Frank's photos of Margaret's daily drive-bys, snapping pictures of my trash cans like a stalker. Her lowest blow was a police report accusing me of stalking, followed by a restraining order request. In court, her lawyer painted me as a menace, but my binder of evidence recordings, timelines, court dismissals tore her story apart. The judge scolded her. "This is retaliatory and a waste of resources." The order was dismissed with prejudice. I hired a legitimate surveyor, who confirmed I owned 15 feet of the road. City records had no easement, meaning the city built on private land without permission, a bureaucratic blunder. Margaret's social media meltdown followed, ranting about corrupt systems and revealing her motive, control for profit. Neighbors turned on her after Frank hosted a coffee meetup where the Lopezes and Carters shared their stories. I filed to control my road portion, installing legal barriers and signs. Private property, owner permission required. Margaret was trapped. She had to call me to leave her house. I granted access to all neighbors, except her, unless she asked. 3 days after her HOA ouster, Margaret called, voice broken. At my house, she looked defeated, no blazer, just a wrinkled sweater and smudged makeup. She confessed, drowning in debt, she'd forced sales for commissions, targeting families with fake violations to push below-market deals to investors. The Lopezes and Carters lost thousands. My terms were firm. A public apology, $8,500 for my costs, a permanent HOA ban, 40 hours of community service, and a road agreement with new HOA bylaws for transparency and appeals. She complied. At the apology meeting, Margaret admitted her scheme, voice cracking as she named her victims. Frank became HOA president, focusing on community, not control. Property values rose 3%, my house up $23,000. Margaret's real estate license was revoked. She sold her house and fled 200 miles away, now a renter under a landlord's thumb. I started monthly Know Your Rights workshops, helping families like the Petersons, who kept their wheelchair ramp despite HOA pushback. Pinewood Meadows became a true community. Our Thanksgiving potluck drew 150 people, kids playing, neighbors planning projects. Frank gave me a Community Champion award, joking, "Heroes wear slippers and carry coffee mugs." The new Pinewood Fair housing standards ensured no one could abuse power again. My story made it into a law textbook, a case study in fighting institutional bullying. Margaret's final act was a futile complaint from her new apartment, challenging the road's status. It was her last gasp, ignored by a community that had moved on. Sitting on my porch, coffee in hand, I measured my driveway not because I had to, but to remind myself no one should lose their home to a bully with a title. Margaret thought she'd break me, but she taught us to stand up, protect each other, and build a community where everyone belongs. What do you think? Have you faced neighborhood bullies or injustice? Share your stories in the comments, especially your take on standing up to abuse and fighting for fairness. Let's hear your stance.